Hey everyone, today I'm going to be going over recursion, flattening an array, and uppercasing each element of the array. So to start, we have an array. As you can see, it is a sentence, but with nested arrays inside of it. We have a single element nested array, 2 elements in this one, and then 2 elements inside the second one there. The output that we want is this. Each element of this array to have all lower uppercase letters. So let's comment this out and let's start building this. Okay, to start, we're going to set a new variable equal to an empty array. Next, we are going to establish our base case. So everything except for the base case is, the base case will be that the array is an empty array, like this, and everything else will be if it has at least one element in it. So if r.length means if it's at least one element long. Next, another if statement. If we're dealing with an array on the first element, then we want to do something, but let's get back to that. Otherwise, we're not dealing with an array on the first element, so we want to push the element uppercase. So the first element of the array to uppercase. Great. So this is what we want on every element. We want to push this element, such as these, to uppercase to our new array. And of course we need to return our new array. Of course at this point we're not going to get anything because it's going to, it hasn't pushed anything yet. So if that first element is an array, then we are going to push we're going to write in the spread operator, and we're going to call our function again on that first element. Great. So finally, we need to also call that this function on the rest of the array, and this is where the meat of recursion comes in. So up until now, we've only been dealing with that first element. Finally, we are going to deal with the rest of the array. So what we're doing here is we are passing in a slice of this array to our function all over again. So as you may all recall, array.slice, starting with the one element, the second element, the first index, the second element of our array, going until the end, will essentially pass in an array looking like that. So we're going to pass in this into our array, into our function, which will, this statement right here will of course evaluate to true. This statement will evaluate to true, so that this first element, which is an array, so we're going to actually push that element, this array, that is passed into the function again. So this is being passed in here, which means since it's a string, it's not going to be an array, so it's going to evaluate here. So that first element, letters, is going to be uppercased and pushed onto our new array. So this can be a little convoluted, but let's take a look at what's really happening under the hood here with Chrome DevTools. So we've got the debugger attached here right at the beginning of our function. Start off here, we are going to, as you can see, our new array is defined as an empty array. We are dealing with these as the first element. Well, we're dealing with the whole array at this point. So, of course, this is going to evaluate to true because we have more than one element in the array. The first element is an array, or is not an array, so we're going to skip over that. So we're going to go straight to here, and we are going to push that first element, which is a string, to uppercase into our new array. Then we are going to go down here and pass in, again, r.slice1 is, ta-da, an array with one element and an array with two elements. So as you can recall, that's this array here and this array here, because this is really two elements. Then we are going to pass, so we're going to pass that in. Yes, it's longer than 0, and yes, this first element is an array. So we're going to push the return value of this function on that with that first element, the array passed in, onto our new array. But before we do that, we actually have to evaluate that function. So we will. So now we are working on an array with one element, a string inside of it. Yes, it is an array. Oh, I'm sorry, the first element is not an array. The first element, which is just the string, is not an array. So then we are uppercasing that. Then we are going to do all this again. So now we are dealing with, as you can see, here, let's get to that later. So now, as you can see, we're dealing with an array of two elements right here, which is this right here. Now we're dealing with this one right here. R, an array 2. So then we are going to pass that first element, which is just a string, and we're going to uppercase it. And let's just run through this all the way till the end. So now at the end, you see we have this call stack here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 calls on this function, which may not make sense because you're thinking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's only 5 elements. Well, we called it once on this array. Then we called it again on what we call this array. Then on this array itself. And then on this array. And then on this array. So all of those together is 8 calls of this function. So we have all 8 calls on here. Then we're going to step here. So if we can scroll down here, where are we? So when we get to the very end, our array that we are passing in is an empty array because, of course, when we are on our last element here, when we are passing this into the function, the second element of this array, or rather, starting at the second element is going to give us nothing. So that is not going to happen. So basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be returning this variable here, which is just an empty array. So that's what we're doing here at the very end, or at the top of the call stack. So then as we call it, this last element, which was at the top of our call stack here, is being returned. So then we have, basically, we're going back downwards, we're dealing with these ones right here. This is what was returned. This is what we're evaluating right now. We're going to return this and this in our next call. As you can see, we've uppercased those, and we're going to return those. So now we're dealing with the next one here, R, and then an array with 2 elements. We're back down 1, 2, 3, 4, only 4 to go here. We're getting close. Now we have concatenated them all together, we've pushed them all together, and we have 3 elements. And we just basically go all the way down through until the very end. These letters are really small, all uppercase, and we are going to return it. So there you have it, folks. We've console logged them all out. Thank you very much for watching.